Greetings, viewers, and welcome back to another episode of Red-Rupee cast featuring Dawn of War 2, the Elite mod. Red-Rupee here calling the shots for you tonight as always, and one-on-one action for you tonight. Tex as the Imperial Guard Inquisitor, that nasty witch with all her support spells and crazy weapons, alongside his enemy on the red team, PhatE as the Warp Spider Exarch. Warp Spider, always quite a nuisance on Calderis, able to teleport around this large spread out map with the greatest of ease. Of course, he is against the tenacious Tex as Imperial Guard, which is always a thorn in the side for the Eldar. Things like Sentinels, things like Imperial Guardsmen don't bleed a lot or at all, mostly against these kind of very frail, very expensive dire Avenger squads. Really require a lot of finesse and use of their abilities, some adept use of things like energy shields, grenades, if they really want to contain the bleed and keep these Imperial Guard under control. So one upside for Warp Spider in the face of map control, but I think the Inquisitor might have a slight advantage as far as the army matchup, but we'll see how this goes forward. Tex, of course, a tenacious, very adept player himself, so we'll see how this goes forward. As it stands right now, opening caps, everyone's going all around the map, going pretty much ignoring the center for the time being. A nice Hammer of the Witch is going down there on the Warp Spider Exarch. Inquisitor closing in that stun, buying a little bit of time, keeping an extra volley from that Warp Spider from going off quickly. So far, just a couple dire Avengers and Generators up very quickly for PhatE. Meanwhile, looks like guards, or sorry, not guards, but dire Avengers facing off against the Sentinel, exchanging a bit of fire over there. Both players juking around very quickly on opposing sides of the map between the Warp Spider Inquisitor duel and, of course, these dire Avengers. Now a very quick Guardian Weapons team, not even going for the third dire Avenger, which I often see against Imperial Guard, but instead going for that setup team right out of the gate. But Guardsmen, again, see, this is kind of the engagement that you don't want to go. Your Guardsmen aren't upgraded and there's no cover nearby, so you can see correctly, I believe, PhatE is pulling back, trying to buy a little bit of time for this weapons team to get onto the field. Again, the duel happening back and forth between the Warp Spider and the Inquisitor, both sides kind of dodging around each other and doing a good job of staying on top of both sides of the micro game that's happening right now. So far, the Warp Spider looks like he's going to lose this battle, but he's bought just enough time by warping around to get himself a support weapons team on the field that'll open up the western side of the map for him to go ahead and start capturing. Meanwhile, dire Avengers hunkered down in green cover, dueling behind pipes and walls on either side here, but a second Sentinel now on the field. Tex with double Guardsmen, now double Sentinel. PhatE going for a squad of Rangers here early on instead of what I would have expected as probably a second setup team. We'll have to see how the Rangers do. They will be very good at helping deal with these Sentinels, maybe whittling them down a little bit, but I think without keeping his army fairly well condensed, I'm not sure that the Rangers are going to be able to do too much good, but we'll see how that goes looking forward. Warp Spider is getting his side of the map. So far, the VPs have stayed neutral. We can see the Tex obviously got the first cap, pinged off a few VPs there, but as it stands so far, these Guardsmen have gone ahead, flanked the Eldar, taken the eastern side of the map, and now pushing forward into enemy territory. These requisition points so very important to hold, these natural and ancillary rec points on the opposing sides. You can see Rangers finally getting their first shots out here, getting upgraded with their Ranger Pathfinder gear, knocked off one of those Guardsmen, then got the kinetic shot to delay that cap. Now trying to make sure they can fall back before that Sentinel moves up. It does have detection in a very short range around it. We can see it does spot those Rangers, those red models highlighted there, of course, are completely revealed, don't get any bonus from their infiltration. But they do have to fall back, luckily, before losing a model. Unfortunately, the Warp Spider under attack. A couple swings if he doesn't teleport out of there. Oh no. A slight misstep early there by PhatE. Or sorry, PhatE. I always want to call him Fate, but he's told me his name is pronounced PhatE. That's why the E is capitalized. Oh, PhatE is not happy about that either. Lost his Warp Spider. Not what you want to do, especially against someone like Tex. And with a 1-0 cap, about to be a 2-0 cap here against Eldar, against the Warp Spider even, on Calderis Refinery. Of course, we have come to expect nothing less of our favorite player, Tex, here, or at least one of my favorite players. I guess as a caster I shouldn't take favorites, but that's how it goes sometimes. And let's see how the gen farms are looking. Still not a full gen farm for either side. Both sides been investing in power pretty early here. We do have the crossbow bolt pistol there for the Inquisitor and a heavy weapons squad already on the field. I think one of the Sentinels, no, neither Sentinel is actually upgraded yet. But both guardsmen squads do have their Sarges, so definitely been spending the requisition. Good charge forward, even if only faking out the stomp. If you enemy doesn't click on the Sentinel, they don't know they don't have that stomp, but primarily that purpose was just to get rid of that green cover that those guardsmen and dire avengers were hiding behind. I keep calling them guardians, but that's not what they are anymore. Both of these Sentinels very beat up. That is one of the problems of going double Sentinel, is that your guardsmen have to spend a lot of time trying to keep those Sentinels patched up, especially if you're kind of throwing them into the mix there against all those squads. We've got a heavy weapon duel over here. Both sides continually suppressing each other with the few shots they have, waiting for a bit of reinforcements. Meanwhile, on the eastern side of the map, Guardians and Rangers have taken the field once again. Warp Spider is still down for PhatE. And it'll be interesting to see if either players opt for anything more in this tier, or whether they choose to go straight into tier 2 from here. Tex looks like he's about ready to do so. PhatE is a good deal behind on power, but he has also invested quite a bit more. He's gotten Exarchs for his Dire Avengers. He's got the double Guardians, the Rangers with their Pathfinder gear, so a lot more power spent on PhatE's side of the army. So despite looking like he's far behind, he's just spent more power in tier 1. I don't think we can expect anything super quick from in tier 2 from Tex, but if that were to happen, it would put PhatE in a pretty dire situation, considering he'd be unable to deal with something like a fast Chimera push or something along those lines. That says Tex is just keeping it reserved, not really pushing too far forward, but kind of isolating singular Eldar squads here and forcing them off the field so they can't really kind of coordinate and coalesce into the big, obnoxious Eldar army that they can with this sort of build. Lots of range fire, lots of supporting abilities between the Rangers and that dual Guardian weapons team. But right now, it looks like PhatE just hasn't been able to condense his army in a way that's conducive for a Gen Bash. And luckily for him, though, Tex a little overconfident in that double Sentinel push right here. Lost one of his Sentinels down already. That pretty much makes up for the Warp Spider going down earlier. And even so, I don't think he's going to be able to hold here against this current push at his Gen Farm. With those earlier Exarchs in Tier 1, the Dire Avengers are a good deal more durable. And they put out some reasonable damage on top of that as well. And Inquisitor doing a good job putting out some damage with that crossbow bolt pistol, and of course her melee is still quite reasonable with that. She still holds her sword when she does have that range damage, and of course she can drop the assail ability, or not assail, I think it's some sort of pinning fire. I forget the exact name of it, but it's a small AoE route that is available to her with that crossbow bolt pistol. And oh man, already Stormtrooper squad on the field, instantly getting upgraded with that assault kit, going heavy anti-infantry here right out of the gate. One Ranger going down, and a quick volley of those high-powered hot-shot rifles that these anti-infantry Stormtroopers have. So that's going to be something to keep in mind. Tex really going for some quick long-range lead there. There goes another Ranger very quickly. The Rangers do have to go ahead and retreat. A quick rout of that sniper squad. Sentinel going to get patched up on the back line. This central victory point has remained largely untouched so far. Victory points are almost flush, 423 to 424 at this stage in the game. Both players now in Tier 2. Heavy weapons squad coming onto the field. Tex not going for any quick vehicles. Surprising, because I feel like the Chimera here could be a huge blow to PhatE's composition. Of course, one of these setup squads could easily go for a Bright Lance to try to deal with that, but it would pretty much force, I think, at least one more anti-vehicle option in addition to just a singular Bright Lance. The Warp Spider might be able to get some Power Blades or something along those lines, but right now both sides just going very heavy infantry focus. And we actually have two heavy weapon squads now on the field for Tex. One of them already upgraded with an autocannon, so those autocannons, I wouldn't be surprised to see the second one go for an autocannon as well. Double autocannon, very popular on these very open, spread out maps like Calderis Refinery. Both sides now kind of blasting away at each other, but the Eldar realizing there, oh my gosh, look at that autocannon just blasting away at those dire Avengers. That autocannon does such great AoE infantry damage for all these kind of squishy infantry squads that the Eldar have brought to bear here. And now a flanking heavy weapon squad now moving in with the second autocannon. Hammer of the Witches coming down on that forward setup team. It has to retreat. The second one's still out there. Falcons coming onto the field for PhatE shortly here. I'm not sure if Falcons exactly the choice I want to go, but after seeing the Assault Kit Stormtroopers, I understand the urge to go for a vehicle. I kind of feel like I'd prefer to see maybe a Wraith Lord, but we'll have to see how this goes moving forward. Everything is suppressed right now by this Shuriken Cannon. It is getting shot up by those hot shot rifles right now. Dire Avengers in a lot of trouble. Just the Exarch returning home on his own. And those Stormtroopers do get forced off, but not after routing that second cannon. So right now, only Dire Avengers to hold the field for Mr. PhatE. Tech's pushing forward and finally taking that center point. But the Falcon is coming back onto the field. Or sorry, not back onto the field, but coming onto the field at all now that it's out here. And there's really not much in the way of anti-vehicle. These two autocannons, of course, can make short work if PhatE were to be foolish enough to just charge headlong into it, but I'm sure he'll be smarter than that. He has Rangers. He can use those to set up hollow fields or use the Rangers themselves to push forward and spot where those setup teams are, and then he should be able to very easily flank around. I think once he gets some battle equipment on these Dire Avengers, he should be able to deal with this double autocannon setup fairly easily. Although, of course, as I'm saying, that Ogryn squad is being purchased right now. These big, nasty, almost impossible to kill melee brawlers will be coming forward, and there's really not a good answer for them either on the field. Of course, the Warspider could go for an upgrade such as Entangling Webs or something along those lines to really try to keep those Ogryns under wraps. Guardian Weapons team took a nice bit of fire there, a full volley from that first autocannon, but now a flanking Falcon along with that Shuriken Weapons team really doing some work there. Oh, might even take out a squad here, manages to pick off that last model, that sergeant on those unfortunate guardsmen there, and Dire Avengers moving up. I think he thought that that was the squad with the grenade, but unfortunately it was the second squad that had the grenade there on the Dire Avengers and lost quite a few models there on that push forward. Nice looking grenade right on top of those Ogryns, took them down to about 2/3 health with just that perfect spot, combined with that Guardian Weapon team suppression at the perfect timing. Good route there on the Ogryns, which could have had a really large impact on this battle, but unfortunately for Tex, they got singularly wiped out, or at least wiped off the map for the time being. Grenade comes down right on top of that weapons team, and there's just grenades flying. So much anti-infantry damage on both sides. Sentinel goes down to those Rangers. Rangers proving their worth. I said they were questionable early on, but they really do seem like they're putting in the effort, especially now that we've got two heavy weapons squads. We have a cloaked squad of Stormtroopers running around causing trouble, and I think, is this a second squad now coming in? We do have a second squad, so Tex purchases that squad, I'm assuming, to make up for that lost infantry squad that went down in the battle prior, so he's really trying to make sure he keeps up that ranged DPS. Sometimes that's something that people forget to do, is once they lose one of their early squads, they kind of just keep building forward without keeping a solid ranged core to their army, and if that's what he's going for, you really need to make sure you can keep that DPS up. But let's see, so double heavy weapons squad, double Stormtrooper squad, Ogryns, and of course the one squad of guardsmen that is still standing, upgraded with flamers right now. Inquisitor still sitting with just her basic gear. Warp Spider Exarch is down again, unfortunately. Warp Spider really hasn't done much so far this game. But both sides now, of course, just kind of duking it out for this center point in the mid stages of this game. Ogryns are trying to push forward, but there's really just not enough here to support those Ogryns on their own. There's just too much range firepower, two suppression teams on good flanking positions. The Ogryns trying to get a few swings off and put some dents in the armor of that Falcon, but it's not quite going to happen. Looks like everyone's getting home safely on those heavy weapon squads, at least for the time being. They're going to have to start being very careful where they set up, because those Dire Avengers can just charge forward with those grenades and knock them out. I think the way the army compositions are looking at the moment, PhatE is pretty much in the winning composition as far as just both armies as a whole. Those heavy weapon squads are just not going to be too effective against these mobile Eldar forces. And the hotshot rifles, of course, can do some serious damage, but with the Falcon on the field, those squads can just sort of hop in and out of danger and not really have to worry too much about it. Guardian Weapons team getting caught out of position here. They're going to get the decap, but unfortunately it's going to have to fall off of the map. I'm not sure if that's going to matter in the long run. But Stormtroopers and Inquisitor still unable to do anything about this Falcon. This is what I was talking about earlier, is that the autocannons are nice, but if you can't get them set up, then this Falcon's just going to have control of the field wherever it wants. With PhatE going Tier 3, the energy field coming down on top of that, the Falcon will pretty much be able to just charge right through the first volley of autocannon fire, get behind it, unload dire Avengers for them to drop grenades right on their heads. So I think Tex really needs to be looking into another anti-vehicle option, because just those autocannons aren't going to do it, and the Ogrins, so long as those suppression teams are used correctly, shouldn't be getting anywhere near that thing. So a good quick little gen bash here for Tex. He does manage to get a generator. He might get the node, but I doubt he'd get more than that. And he actually has to be kind of careful with the way this squad's going to retreat. It's going to have to retreat through 2 grenades. It does look like it's fairly healthy, so I think it'll be alright unless one of the grenades lands perfectly. You can see, it looks like PhatE doesn't even bother wasting a grenade. He wants to save those. Sometimes I'll see grenades go down where they aren't necessarily vital and don't guarantee a squad wipe, and when you're not sure when the next engagement is going to be, you oftentimes probably want to hold on to those grenades if you have the ability to do so. So now we see the Falcon there took a couple, 2 or 3 full volleys from that autocannon, and only now just started breaking down its shields. But of course, that energy on the Falcon is essentially regenerating vehicle armor, so that's going to be a real nuisance to take down. The Falcon is troublesome in Tier 2 and becomes a real beast in Tier 3 with that energy shield, really providing some long-term support as far as being able to move around and reinforce on the field, and beyond that be nearly unkillable so long as it's microed correctly. And oh, is that a 3rd heavy weapon squad? Tech's now bringing a 3rd heavy weapon squad onto the field, so I'd be surprised if that didn't go for a las cannon, trying to make sure this Falcon can't stick around any longer than it already has. Inquisitor going for a sneaky back cap here. Oh, actually upgraded there with the Inquisitorial Mandate, buying her a nice bit of invulnerability. Tech's doing what he can to slow this game down and try to buy himself some time to get back into it, realizing that he's well behind in Tier 2, knowing that his enemy is in Tier 3. So Warp Spider still completely vanilla. Ooh, wow, Inquisitor actually went down there, paying for that decap with her life, unfortunately. She'll have to get purchased once again. And oh man, is this going to be another squad down? It doesn't look like it. It's going to escape, but just barely. The Warp Spider doing a lot of shenanigans on that side of the field. Warp Spider had been off the field for so long this game, I'm sure Tex almost forgot about it. Nice grenade going down there. Beautiful hit, taking out 3 out of those 5 Stormtroopers, making sure they don't think they can sneak around willy-nilly on this side of the field. PhatE doing a good job of control, but unfortunately not controlling the map. I say control, just keep it controlling the bleed, controlling Tex's army. But that said, despite seeming like PhatE should be on what I think is the upper hand of this game, he's really not been able to hold the center point for too long at all. You can see he's actually starting to fall behind in victory points again, about 30 down at 310 to 280, but I think he's just kind of been out of position a few times and it's cost him. He's now hanging back, has his natural requisition point decapped, and looking like he needs to kind of rally his forces together. He did lose one of those Guardian Weapons team early on, so he's down to just the single shuriken cannon. And now, using the energy shields against him, Texas got that autocannon set up once again. Of course, as I mentioned, with that shield, that Falcon just doesn't even care. Falcon's moving up, Dire Avengers moving up, dropping grenades everywhere, doing everything they can to break these setup team positions. Unfortunately for Tex, he didn't have that las cannon upgraded. If he had that las cannon upgraded, this Falcon would have had to fall back, or maybe even would have gotten stuck a little too far forward and overextended between a las cannon and the Ogrins. They may well have been able to take this thing out. As it stands right now, however, that thing's going to get out of there no problem. Ogrins aren't going to be able to punch through those shields on their own, and the shuriken weapon team is getting set up to start blasting away at point-blank range into those Ogrin forces. They are super durable, but they are taking point-blank fire. A single model goes down, and then the Guardian Weapons team actually manages to escape. Hammer of the Witches actually drops on the platform there. Normally you would expect to see that on the model since you can't actually kill the platform, but I suppose if you don't think you can take out a model, you can just drop it for make sure you get that full damage on the squad itself. phase shift already upgraded now, or finally I guess upgraded for the Warp Spider. The Warp Spider had no upgrades going into this so far. Phase shift a really useful ability, and I guess considering that your main threat is a melee threat, you can kind of use the Warp Spider to get in there, phase shift, eliminate the supporting forces of those Ogrins, and then take them out and force them off the field themselves. So far, it looks like even though PhatE does have this nasty Falcon, and now on top of that a Fire Prism in Tier 3, he really needs to get out on the field, and that Fire Prism should honestly make short work of most of the Imperial Guard army out here. It's all very infantry based. These setup teams aren't going to be able to set up against that widespread beam, that big AoE blast of the Fire Prism, and the Fire Prism, if used correctly, should also be able to keep the Ogrins mostly under control as well. So we'll have to see how this happens going forward, but as it stands right now, ooh, both of those Stormtroopers getting blasted by that Fire Prism, thinking they had a couple free pot shots at the Rangers, but that long-range Eldar tank proved them wrong. Heavy weapons team now getting set up. Grenades going down once again from these flanking dire Avenger squads. One on the autocannon, one on the forward machine gun. Neither side being able to hang out there more than they had. One generator still up for tech. Neither side's got a full gen farm at this point. Hellfire strike going down on these capturing dire Avengers. They're not going to be able to finish that decap, or maybe they will. They just repositioned so that they could reinforce from the Falcon as they fall. Sacrificed a few models to make sure they could get that decap. He doesn't want to fall any further behind in the victory point race right now. And the Inquisitor, now getting upgraded with the Inferno pistol, and now also, with the Interrogator's armor, which gives her, of course, the ability to cloak either herself or any nearby unit with the Silently ability. So between the sneaky Stormtroopers and now on top of that the Inquisitor herself, who can either cloak her, or I'm sure we'll see that used on these Ogrins, those Rangers are really going to have to stick around the army and make sure they can spot for those cloaked squads that can really put out some serious hurt. Warp Spider over there doing some side cap, and really haven't seen the Warp Spider put to much use this game. He's been down a lot of the first half of the game. Now that he's starting to get some war gears, maybe we'll see some more interesting plays come in with the Warp Spider. Both of these stealth Stormtrooper squads moving in, but they do get spotted by the Rangers. Fire Prism's going to keep blasting away at those heavy weapon squads, make sure those autocannons can't do anything. Oh no, but the Inquisitor's sitting here with that crossbow bolt pistol. Rangers aren't supporting and knocking it back. Fire Prism does look like it's going to move back. Oh no, but it stopped and turned around, showed its rear armor. And one last shot from that long-range melt-a-weapon is all it took to take that tank out. Oh, that's a huge blunder there by PhatE. Really, what you have to do whenever you're moving a vehicle back, I know I've mentioned it before, but shift-click it one at a time in segments, very short segments, and it will always back up. You don't want to do it long range, or it will spin and turn around just like that. Again, dual autocannons firing into the back of the Falcon. That's both Eldar vehicles down in the blink of an eye, and this game is suddenly looking very much in Texas' favor. I thought PhatE had this under control with that Fire Prism and Falcon combination, but now as it stands, things are looking very dicey. Dire Avengers moving in with the help of the Warp Spider, getting in on all of these heavy weapon squads, taking out everything. Oh, unfortunately for this one, just the man with the machine gun falling back to base. He's going to have to find himself a whole new squad and lug that thing the long way home. Inquisitor now coming out once again with both of these squads. Warp Spider out here. Oh no, he's actually quite low on HP. He has to be careful, right? Oh, he has no idea he's in front of the firing squad. Gets singularly assassinated by those three squads, no problem. Guardians instantly forced off as well. Nice little play there by that Inquisitor. That's an Inquisitor play if I've ever seen it. Just set up an assassination, no harm, no foul for the Imperial Guard. PhatE loses his Warp Spider for the third time here, unfortunately for him, and he's got plenty of resources. He can really purchase whatever he wants, but he needs to get out on the field here shortly because the VPs are starting to even up, but now without both of those vehicles, it's going to be hard for him to contest the center point once all three of these setup squads get onto the field. With the Warp Spider down, which, I guess he did instantly repurchase. Falcon coming back onto the field, And with only dire Avengers, like his army is essentially a tier 1 army right now. He has dire Avengers, he has Rangers, he has his Shuriken weapon team. Tex is still, of course, only in tier 2. He's not tier 3, but he does have what he needs to deal with this Eldar army. There's so much anti-infantry firepower, and these Ogrins can really take so much abuse from all this light-piercing damage. Rangers putting out a few blasts, but again, not quite enough to do it. There goes those sneaky Ogrins now moving in. Judgment going down on the Guardian Weapons team on top of that, so a little AoE right there. And now the flanking Ogrins moving in for the kill. Shuriken weapon team has to fall back. Both of these Eldar squads are going to have to do the same if I were to guess. And oh, we have another call in. Is this more stormtroopers, or what did he call in right here? Yes, it is. He's just been calling in everything non-stop, not hesitating to use all of that requisition, all of that red to keep squads coming onto the field. Looks like he lost both of his stormtrooper squads right there in what I think was an Eldritch Storm. But despite all of that, he's still pushing hard into this. Grenade goes down right. Oh, nice juke. I thought that was going to blast the Ogrins right in the face, but excellent attentiveness there by Tex. Managed to maneuver around it. Ogrins do get suppressed a little bit, but they're not going to be able to stop this decap over here. 179 to 163, but it's about to be a 3-0 cap against the Warp Spider on Calderis Refinery. Not what you want to be seeing if you're that Eldar player. Dire Avengers actually trying to duel these stormtroopers in melee. That Exarch does have a reasonable sword and I think some somewhat reasonable melee damage on top of that. But I don't know, things are looking dicey suddenly for PhatE. Tex has really been all over the map, and despite being down but of course not out, I really thought PhatE had this under control, but he's going to have to kind of fight his way back into this now. Both sides putting on a really solid show. I think PhatE's just been a little careless with his Warp Spider. It's gone down so many times now. It's really starting to show in the army composition. He's gotten some good wipes and bleed on Tex as well, but in the long run, I think Tex is starting to pull ahead in this one. You can see just that the Inquisitor's level 6, Warp Spider's level 4. That autocannon still constantly busting down Eldar shields, constantly causing bleed. And again, another Hell Fury strike to deny that capture. Such a useful tool to utilize when you're trying to win this long-term victory battle. The attrition's really starting to stack up against PhatE more and more as we go forward. And with that incisive strike against the Falcon and Fire Prism in the kind of final stage, moving into that final stage of the game here, it's really kind of showing what the Inquisitor can do. A lot of good play here so far. These Ogrins still running the field, however, though. All things considered, PhatE's done a pretty good job in most engagements of controlling these guys just with things like grenades, and now of course we're seeing phase shift, kinetic shot, the Guardian Weapons teams on top of that. Neither side with a particularly decisive army composition at this point. Rangers just kind of hanging out there. They have to be very careful. You don't want to lose those at this stage, especially with all that potential infiltration on the field. One model does manage to head on home. Inquisitor is falling back. And oh wow, oh, is that a Bane Wolf? We have a Bane Wolf on the field. Something you don't often see late game here. But wow, 52 to 179 and a Bane Wolf out here that really PhatE can do almost nothing about. That Falcon can eventually whittle that thing down, but so far it's forcing off all of the Eldar infantry right out of the field. And really, oh man, 43 to 179 and PhatE suddenly in a pretty tricky spot. I wouldn't have expected a Bane Wolf at this stage of the game. It's not really going to do that much, I feel like, but it bought a little more time. It forced off a couple more squads, and when there's less than 50 victory points on the field, every point matters. 2-0 cap right now, and really, PhatE has no choice now. With that last couple plays, Tex has forced PhatE into a position where he has no choice but to just charge headlong into these autocannons, headlong into that Bane Wolf. He doesn't have what it takes. There's still squads back here that are phase shift, trying to do what they can to get some decaps in. Another Eldritch Storm goes off. That's the second one that goes down, but it's going to be too little too late as the last few VPs tick down. Another Hell Fury strike eliminates a squad in the last moments of the game. And what a match. Oh, I thought as soon as that Fire Prism hit the field and Tex still didn't have any hard anti-vehicle, I thought that game was in the hands of PhatE. but that fire prism was a bit too far forward and didn't react instantly to that Inferno cannon on that Inquisitor. That thing can be so nasty. It's such a solid long-range weapon for dealing with vehicles. You can saw how singularly she dealt with that fire prism, and the Falcon fell not long after that. Oh wow, look at this. Is actually a poor stormtrooper getting ripped to shreds by point-blank death spinners. That's no fun for him. Oh, I guess it was probably painless if you get just instantly turned into a bunch of Imperial Guard bits there. Oh, good stuff. That was a lot of fun. Oh man, I want to see Tex go down in one of these, but I can't actually say that. I like seeing both players win, and Tex has won the last several times he's on. I know people have been saying that, but someone's got to submit a replay where they take him out, or it's just not going to happen. We're going to have to put a bounty on his head if it happens once again. Oh man, look at that autocannon there. These guys just in a pile. Inquisitor doesn't care. She's got her little floaty servo skull or something like that. I don't know what it's called. I'm rambling at this point. I hope you guys enjoyed the game. Oh, is that Valkyrie still on the field? Let's see if we can spot that bad boy. It might be up there. No, we can't quite get it. But good. Oh man, I wish that fire prism hadn't gone down. I love fire prisms. Oh. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the game. It was a fun one. It was a crazy one. A lot of kills, a lot of squad wipes on both sides. If you're looking to hear more Red Rupee, I've done a couple podcasts recently. I've done MAGCast, which is a silly gaming podcast. I also did Rhythm and Pixels, which is a gaming music podcast. If you're looking to hear some more of my voice, feel free to check those out. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Send me your replays. I need more replays. Give me those 1s and 2s. I get so many 3-on-3s. Give me something different. I want to see something new in this game. Anyways, that's it for me. This is Red Rupee. I'll catch you guys next time.